It is QBIQ. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Great one again today. We've got Malcolm Bell. Man, he is the engineer and founder of Undefeated Quarterback Training in Richmond, Virginia. Dude has got a ton of accolades from the media attention in the Virginia area, working with a lot of quarterbacks. I think he said over 100. From middle school to high school to college players and more. Played Division I football, turned professional, and now is coaching high school and training quarterbacks. Great conversation with Malcolm. We actually did an Instagram live, which got a ton of traction. If you weren't able to watch it, check out some of the clips that we put on our social channels and listen to this full episode so you can hear about Malcolm's story and journey so far. Guys, again, appreciate all of the support, all of the players, the coaches, the parents that are listening to the podcast. Really did not expect to see the growth that we're seeing as fast as we're seeing it. So really appreciate all of your support. Continue to listen. If you're listening now, go drop a rate and review. Helps us a ton. 5 stars. That would be awesome. But again, appreciate all of the support. Stay tuned on all of our social channels. It is Thanksgiving week. So if you're listening to this now, it is Monday of Thanksgiving week. Everybody, go enjoy the holiday. Enjoy your family. Think about what you're thankful for. And continue to support the podcast. And here we go with the Malcolm Bell episode.
High school to college, and I tell this story a lot, I didn't have a trainer here. So I was kind of just doing everything off of raw talent. And obviously that hurt my recruiting a lot. Being 5'10" and a half on my senior year and not having a quarterback trainer, I wasn't as polished as the other quarterbacks were in the nation. But my raw talent took me a long way. So, I only had 2 Division I offers, one to the University of Delaware and one to North Carolina Central, and that's where I ended up. But no, the transition was fine, I guess. Just not knowing the little things that I needed to know going into college football set me back, but luckily I was able to redshirt. And then after that, I started learning a lot more about football. My coach was very knowledgeable about the game, and my first coaching staff there, our offensive coordinator, was running the West Coast system. So a lot of checks, a lot of protections, things like that, which got me in tune to real football really quick. So my transition was fine. It was tough in the beginning, though.
Yeah, you said the West Coast offense was at North Carolina Central or in high school?
At North Carolina Central when I got there.
Okay. So what'd you guys run in high school?
We ran the Tony Franklin system.
Okay.
We had small offensive linemen. We played in a huge division, but we had small offensive linemen. We had dynamic skill players. So Tony Franklin would always say, if you got that, then you should be able to run the offense. So we threw probably like 80% of the time.
Right. No doubt. So it wasn't as crazy of a transition from you if you ran the triple option and then go into the West Coast or something like that. So at least you were familiar with throwing the ball.
Yeah, correct.
So you had offer from Delaware and from North Carolina Central. What made you choose Central?
It was weird. I went on a visit, and this was kind of before I had a visit set up to go to Delaware, maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks after the Central visit, and I went during their homecoming, which was a mistake because I just felt the love. It was just a place where I wanted to go. And the team had got crushed at that point, and they were just making that. They were like in year 2 of the transition to Division I. So I know, Delaware had already won a national championship at that point. They were already kings of FCS football at that point. And, I felt like I wanted to leave my mark at Central. Like I wanted to leave a legacy that they've never had there in Division One. So I kind of stuck with it. I stayed with it. And a lot of people around were like, why in the world are you going to Central, and not going to Delaware? But it was just a decision that I wanted to make, and I felt very, very comfortable with making that decision.
Right. So, and North Carolina Central is a little closer to you than Delaware, or about the same?
It's closer. So Durham is about 2 hours, I think. University of Delaware is maybe like 5, I want to say.
Right. So the first thing that you said was that you didn't have a QB trainer or really any trainer in high school, and that set you back. So and now obviously you're training, you're one of the best out there in not just Virginia, but across the country. What phases, what areas of the game did that set you back in not having one when you were in high school?
It was really simple things. So I was always a natural passer of the football, and that's probably why I received Division One offers as a 5'10" quarterback. But it was just little things. I mean, I would go to camps and they'd be like, you're not sound on your drop. You're not sound on a 5-step. You're not sound on a 7-step. You're kind of lacking in the play action. Just little things like that. Or when I missed, I was pretty much on target, but when I missed throws, they were bad. And then it's just me not getting my foot to where it needs to be at and things like that. And
like bad mechanically?
Yes, right. Okay. So my upper half was fine. My lower half was terrible. And yeah, and that's what the problem was.
I got you. Well, hey, that's a great segue before we'll get back to your story, but your lower half was terrible, as you say. That's a great segue to right now. That video of Dak and that video of Garoppolo is going everywhere. We put it on our social. You put it on your social. So give me the compare and contrast from, you say your lower was terrible, and what is going on in the video with Dak?
Pretty much just separating your body, top and bottom, just some hip disassociation, just getting the hips fired and hips in tune. And they do it in pregame just to make sure they're putting those things through, just making sure everything is loose. And I make my quarterback do it pregame as well. So, it's just something that everyone can't do. I would not recommend like little kids doing it because it just takes too much. It takes too much coordination. One, you have to do it a lot. It requires a lot of practice, but it's a great tool to get kids to understand, or any quarterback that hasn't done it to understand, that the lower half gives off so much power. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to get as much as you want on that throw. So, when I saw that,
that's where all the energy comes from.
Exactly.
That's literally where all the energy is sourced from the ground.
Exactly.
It's not just the clearing of the left, but driving if you're a right-handed quarterback, driving that right towards the target.
Right.
And so like we talk about the same, is like you might use different language, but like staking that right foot, taking the ball of that right foot in the ground, like it's drilled in there, and driving that right hip. It's like a baseball swing.
Yes.
Right? You mentioned that, I think, in your post. And that's the biggest thing, is sourcing that energy from the ground up. You see so many guys now with this, if you're a right-handed quarterback, this big leg kick, right? This big right-legged kick, like they're a baseball pitcher.
Yeah.
And we got to remember, those dudes are on like a 3-foot hill going
exactly
down, right? That's not what we get.
Right.
So, that's a great point. That's a great point, that it's not necessarily for young kids. It's definitely a move that needs to be taught.
Yes.
Don't just go out there and say, "Oh, Dak Prescott did it, so I'm going to go out
and do it." Right. You're messing around and hurt yourself. Right. I mean, it's too aggressive of a move to just go out on the field and do it on your own. It's either you're not going to do it right and you're not going to get anything from it, or you're going to end up hurt or trying to, well, what is going on with my hip right now? Why is it locking up or something like that? Because, you don't want to go out to the field and just start doing that. Like, you need to warm up first, then you need to go into that. I don't recommend somebody just going out in pregame and just knocking it out. I don't agree with that.
Yeah. Now, when you use that in in the trainings that you do, do you guys ever use bands? Like, will you ever use resistance bands with that? Or how would
Yeah.
you communicate on that?
So basically, at times, we would have resistance bands sometimes, and that's in our different phases of training. So I take away resistance bands probably in the month of April. So January through March, I will probably have resistance bands, med balls, all those things, just to increase power just a little bit. But um, we would set up cones, and I would have kind of like if you were doing a drill of like line straddling, or you're just going across lines. We would have our left foot, our strike foot pointed to the target, and we will start developing that L. We'll get our rotation, get to the L, and then we will start firing through each time through our hip. So we would do it 3 times, and I kind of let them flow through it a bit, and then we start throwing, or I will put them on the line. We'll start on the sideline, and I'll let them flow through their pre-pass posture, acceleration, deceleration phase, and then we'll go through it in a full motion. And that's how we do it. It's hard to explain right now.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I get you. No, that's awesome. And I think that's important of having clearly, I mean, you're good at what you're doing and having the process, right? Having like the standard operating procedure of
Right.
this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to coach it. But then also for the guys that you're training, okay, they know what to expect. It's
Exactly.
not like after you teach them, it's not like you're just throwing random drills.
Right. Exactly. It has to, things like that have to stay consistent. Like, if you're doing an evasion drill or something like that, like, yes, you can switch that up. But something as simple as just driving that back hip through, that has to remain the same. They have to understand what that is and how it needs to be done and how serious it is. So that's what I kind of pitch.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, so tying that back to, you said you had terrible lower half in high school. So how was it different than what we're talking about and then what the video of Dak and Garoppolo and all that shows?
Well, one, I never knew what a strike foot was, right? So I never stepped to my target. I never created straight line throws with anything. I relied on my upper body, and I always knew get your shoulder on the target. That's something that your coach would always tell you. My coach was pretty good. He knew his stuff. He knew his offense, but he didn't know the little nuances of being a efficient quarterback. So I would be stuck moving my upper body, twisting it to the target, but having my body lined up straight forward. So I wasn't tying my feet with my eyes. Nothing was aligned to anything. And that's what got me in trouble a lot. So it started with just not even knowing anything about stepping to the target or opening up to the target and coming through with your back half. Like, none of it. Like I said, upper body.
So were you throwing a lot of arm? You were just using that arm talent that you had.
Right. And I mean, imagine, 5'10", 160 pounds, just with all. And I used to try to figure out, like, why in the world can I not throw it 60 yards? And when I got to college, I started doing different drills, and it started helping me out a little bit. But yeah, my lower half was shot. I mean, and that just was with everything. Anything that, I was agile, I could move around in the pocket, I could be an athlete, but everything else, it wasn't tying together for me.
Right. So you had enough talent, you had enough God-given skill, talent that it got you the opportunity to play at the next level. How long of a transition was it for you to start to, whether it was the drills or the coaching or just self-awareness on your own? Mm-hmm. Was it like a year process to really get into a nice groove and throwing motion, or a couple year process? What was that like?
So it took me my entire redshirt year. I got better as a quarterback from a skill set standpoint, but the mental as well. The mental got to me because I wasn't being taught all the things that I'm teaching my guys now. And so it was just a mental breakdown with trying to figure out if I'm even good enough to play at this level because of, my feet and not being able to throw the ball like the seniors were on the team.
Right.
Yeah, but it took me about, I would say, 2 years. So into my redshirt sophomore years when I started picking up things and started understanding. And we ran the running. So we had a new coaching staff. We started running the run and shoot, which was a lot of RPOs. The game was kind of ran through the quarterback at that point. And
Sure.
it gave me a lot of confidence, and I was able to process a lot of things pre-snap. So I became a better passer because I knew what I wanted to do before I even took a snap. And that's where the confidence comes in.
Say it. Say it louder.
Yeah, I knew what I wanted to do prior to even, getting the ball. So it made me a better passer. So I wasn't choking my motor on some throws, just thinking about it too much. Like I was able to go out and play freely and do what I had to do because I knew what I was going to see or what was going to happen. And that took me to another level.
No doubt. Yeah. Now, was that a part of that process of you learning pre-snap and how to process what you're looking at, what the defense's responsibilities are? Is that something that your coaches were teaching and ingraining, or is that something that you were like, okay, this is probably really important.
Mm-hmm.
I need to learn this, or was it both?
Well, so my previous offensive coordinator, I'll go back.
Okay.
He actually taught me everything I needed to know, or tried to. And I didn't really want to listen at that point. But then it started making sense to me. So I would know every coverage. I knew all fronts. I knew, and really that is how I'm teaching this stuff now because of what he did for me as a redshirt and as a true freshman or as a freshman. So fast forward to my other coaching staff, they really just gave me the system to be able to pick and choose what I wanted to do based off of looks. But then it was up to me to watch film and understand, all right, I see this look, but I also need to know what this coverage is. So I get into the best situation because the ball's in my court. Like I have total control of what's going on. And, it's nowadays, a lot of people are like, all right, so if it's a 2-high roof, you do this. If it's a 1-high roof, you do this. But no matter what, if it's a 2-high, it still could be they can roll to something. It could be cover 6. It could be, 2 different coverages on either side. And so that's what drove me to learn more going into my junior year because I was just listening to what the offense told me. And I was okay. But then I started putting in what I learned as a freshman and all the coverages and things like that. And then that, again, took me to another level that I really never thought I'd get to.
No doubt. Yeah. So I love everything that you just said because it reminded me of a few weeks ago, we did a podcast with the offensive coordinator at Concordia, Chicago.
Okay.
University of Concordia, Chicago. I don't know what order those names go in, but he's a college OC. And literally he talked about, he uses QBIQ, which we'll get into in a second, but he used to teach, right, concept and offense and scheme first, and then talked about defenses and what their responsibilities are and what coverages look like. And now it is totally flipped for him. The first thing that he teaches to his quarterbacks are, what does the defense do? What is their responsibility? When his body looks like this, what's his job?
Right.
Teach exactly what the defense is doing, and then all the scheme and the stuff becomes way easier.
Exactly. Yep.
So that's cool to hear that you learned that through your beginning college process, but now it's really the foundation of how you're teaching your guys.
Correct. Yeah, I don't want to leave any of my quarterbacks out to dry. I feel like if you start teaching concepts and different offenses and protections and all of that stuff without giving them like basics, then you're hurting them because they're going to get in a situation one day where, oh, this is not that offense. Oh, well, the defensive looks never change. Like that stuff is there. I mean, until you get to the NFL where they start doing other things, right? You're playing from middle school to high school to college. Everything is pretty much the same, right? With little tweaks here and there, but everything's the same. The name is the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy. Like we watch football now after playing and playing for a long time and coaching for a long time at high levels. We watch the game now and I'm like, holy Toledo, man. Yeah. If I knew that 10 years ago,
Yeah.
Like who knows what would happen, but it's like football's made for dummies, right? Like it's
Yes.
not very
You
hard.
know what's crazy?
You have to put the beginning work in to know it and to
Yes.
study it and to learn it. But then it's pretty simple.
I literally tell all of my quarterbacks that, like, guys, anybody can play football. Like, it's not for geniuses. Like, so if you go out and roll out and you want to play football, like, it's a lot of people that it's a lot of quarterbacks that don't know a lot of stuff. Like, it's quarterbacks out here that don't know every coverage, right? So if you do the extra, just imagine where you could get to. You just never know.
Right, no doubt. And so tying into the mental part, and you've been teaching and training your guys a lot from what you've learned through your experience. We haven't even gotten to your quick journey in the CFL yet, but you've used QBIQ in the past couple years. I know you did with one of your camps last year. What's that been like for you? What's the system look like for you? How do you utilize it with your guys?
So I'm a huge fan and believer of what you guys do, first off. And when we use it in camp, it gave my guys something to always go back and look at and something that they can reference. Like, so it was kind of proving everything that I was saying correct. And it doesn't matter what offense they were in or what school they were coming from. You can see the route and you can see what you can and cannot do. And I think that was the biggest thing for my guys was seeing, a post. Oh, I can't throw that with one high safety right there. Or things like that. I mean, it was can't throw a out against cover two. I mean, just little things like that that just helped them really realize what I was trying to show them. And again, I mean, this pre-snap process is the most important part of being a quarterback, and having an entire book and entire philosophy based on that. It makes a huge difference.
Very cool, man. Well, I appreciate the sentiment, and I'll pass it on to Chris. Of course, he appreciates it as well. And so, like, the terminology is some schools may use it, some schools might not use it. You as a trainer may or may not use it. But does it help that it's kind of just a universal foundation of, hey, you guys might not call a slant a two, but if you say it, you know what it is, right? So
Exactly.
it's not like, oh, your offense doesn't use this term or this terminology, so you can't use it, right? It's for all your quarterbacks,
right,
regardless of what system they're in.
Yep. And that's what helped out because, I mean, people were coming from all different schools. I mean, from triple option to spread to really anything. And, you know, at first they were like, well, how is this going to help? And then they open the book and they're like, wow, well, all of us can relate to what's being said or what's being shown in this book.
Right. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. How many guys are you working with?
On a regular?
Yeah.
I would say on a regular, probably like 65 to 70.
Nice.
I mean, this off season might be the biggest that we've ever had, so I'm not sure where that number will go. But I have touched probably over 180 quarterbacks so far in this 2 years, or this is now year 3. We're now into year 3, but in 2 years, probably like 180 quarterbacks. So it's been pretty cool.
Awesome. That's awesome. Are most of those guys high school age kids from Virginia?
A couple. Well, mostly all. It's just, you know, I work with like Richmond and surrounding counties, but now I'm starting to pull from, you know, Northern Virginia, from Western Virginia. And now I'm starting satellite group trainings now in Northern Virginia and in the Tidewater area, which is Virginia Beach area. So that'll be like awesome for, you know, exposure and then getting these guys the quality training that they probably are not getting at that location. So
that's awesome. Super cool, man. It's for you to be able to coach at the high school you're at, you're the OC and quarterbacks coach, and then to train. It sounds like you don't ever have to work. You're just loving what you're doing.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. It's cool. It's cool to be a part of, and I mean, I'm still young, and being able to do this is just keeping me young. To be honest, it's really
Right.
cool.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's kind of retrack real quick. So you're at Central, North Carolina Central. You there 4 years or 5?
5.
5 years. And so when did you start? Like, when did you get the starting job? And I know you guys went to at least one bowl game,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my first start came my redshirt freshman year. So I went up in backup duty uh, at our homecoming game, and I completed 8 straight passes and capped that drive off with the touchdown. We had lost that game, but everybody just saw like, hey, we might as well play the young kid. So I was able to start the next week, and that was a total disaster. Um, it was my first game starting, and it was also my starting center. That was his first game starting.
Oh boy.
And we won the game, but it was still a disaster. But I learned a lot. I think I played the next game as well, and then the senior came back, and actually we played a team on ESPN the week after. It was the number 1 team in the conference at that time, and that was terrible. um,
Who was that? What school was
it
that?
was Bethune-Cookman out of Daytona
Okay.
Beach.
Yep.
Yeah, and they sent a double bullets A at me, and literally both linebackers hit me. So, I mean, the ball's up in the air on ESPN. They scoop and score. It was crazy. So, that was something I just wasn't ready for.
Right.
And so they put the senior back in, and then he finished out the year. And then fast forward to the next year, new coaching staff came in, and obviously, if you see the film of the year before, you're like, man, we got to get a quarterback, you know? So they went in and got their guys. And of course, new coaching staffs bring their quarterback in, they bring some receivers in. And, you know, he was a great quarterback. I can't take that from him. He was very smart. He made the throws. He took what the defense gave him. And he went in and he started for the first 3 games. And then I took over that starting job. And then the rest is history. So my redshirt sophomore year, after 3 games, I never looked back. So I'm like the winningest quarterback in the history at the school.
Dang. All right.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's
Very
pretty
cool. So you finished up there, and so how did the CFL come about? Like, how did that happen? Did you get an agent, or what happened there?
Yeah. So obviously, I felt like I had a shot to play or get a mini camp invite, right, to an NFL squad. And so I got an agent. I was training and everything. And, you know, I talked to a lot of, you know, insider people. Just me being in HBCU football is a couple of executives that are from, you know, HBCUs and, you know, say, hey, well, we're going to get you in camp. You just got to perform. So me in the back of my head, I'm like, you know, I went to 3 pro days. So I went and threw at the University of Richmond pro day. I did really good there. Talked to about 5 teams. I went down to Durham and performed at the North Carolina Central pro day. Talked to a couple scouts there, made a few contacts. So at that point, I was thinking, all right, so I put everything out on the table. I see who was for real and who was not, and who I was talking to at the time. And it was the Redskins and it was the Seahawks. And at that point, I'm just thinking, well, somebody's going to call and I'll be going to either one of those spots. Well, during my whole entire training process, the CFL had already offered me a contract. So Winnipeg had already claimed rights and they were going to take me regardless. But at that time, I'm like, no, I'm going to go and take the NFL route, which was, I mean, a lot of people would do that.
Sure.
And when I didn't get the call, that's when the madness started, because now it's like, oh man, like, am I not going to be able to play? Is Winnipeg still, because at that point they feel disrespected, because I guess they felt like I wasn't going to get a call, and me playing at a small school and being the size that I was just didn't match up, and it didn't work out. So at that point, they signed me. It took a little minute. but they went back, they signed me. I was there through training camp and the preseason and things like that. It just didn't work out. No, I performed well. I talked to the coaches and everything. But it was just being an international player and me being fourth on the depth chart at that time, they needed another player. And it's easy for me to just, get shipped off. So at that point, I just felt, before I left, I said to my friends and my coaches that I was going to be a trainer whenever football was over. I just didn't know when that point would be. And I was kind of getting things in place when I was gone just to make sure when I got back in that off season that I was able to start. So I guess God was just telling me, well, now is your time to start. And then when I got back home, it didn't take 2 weeks. Went in and called the coach at Trinity, Coach Mickens, gave me opportunity. Started off as a quarterback coach there in that first year. And that just helped me network with all of the high school kids and things like that, and helped me out a lot. And from there, here I am.
Dude, that's awesome. Man, it's so cool to hear, right? We talk about anybody that I talk to on the podcast we always talk a little bit about their stories and their journeys. And sure, there's some similarities with everybody, obviously football and the ups and downs, but it's so cool to hear the unique little nuggets from each person. And the path that you took is your path. Nobody else has the same one. They might have a similar one, but nobody else has the exact same path that you've had. So that's really cool. I appreciate you sharing that. And let me ask you, like a devil's advocate side is, have you gotten any pushback or any hate from being a high school coach and a trainer, training kids that maybe you're playing on Friday nights, anything like that?
Yeah. And it hasn't been out in the open, but of course kids talk. So they told me about it. It only happens when the coach's philosophy gets compromised in a way. Like when the quarterback coach is telling them to do something and you're at that point, I'm not your coach. Like your football coach is your coach. You need to respect him. You need to listen. You need to do exactly what he says, because that could be part of his philosophy. That's part of his offense. I just teach universal things so you're ready for anything. But I always try to tell my quarterbacks, and he didn't listen this time, but to just listen, right? And never tell that coach, well, my trainer told me this. And that's when coaches get pissed off. And they say things that they really don't mean at that time. But, you're challenging a coach, and he's a man too. So now you're telling me, and especially if he's an older guy, like, he's been coaching for 30 years. I just got out of playing football. I'm 25.
You don't want some newcomer coming in and saying, what's up?
Yeah. No, not at all. And I understand that, and I respect that. And I would never want anybody to think that I'm out here trying to change what people do. I'm just coaching. I want a better overall product of the quarterback that they have. So yeah, I played against 4 of my quarterbacks this year, and they did pretty well. But the coaches aren't going to come up to you and say thanks. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
But that's not what I look for. I care about the kids, and that's it.
No doubt. That's awesome. Now, on the flip side, has you being able to train, because I talk about this with Chris, and he's been training for a long time, is when you're training and you're not coaching, it removes you from the scheme that the coach is putting on to the kid and teaching the kid. Now, has the times that you're training and removing yourself from the scheme helped you as a coach now? As a coach within your team? Look at it differently or teach it differently?
Could you say that? I think I lost you.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hold on real quick. I think I got it. You got to rejoin me.
All right. I'm adding you on there now.
All right. Got it. I'm back on. Cool. All right.
So like, right, training, you remove yourself from the scheme, you remove yourself from the offensive scheme. so you can have totally no bias, right?
Right.
Clean slate with the player that you're training. Vice versa, has that mindset helped you now on Friday nights or Monday through Thursday as an offensive coordinator when you're talking about scheme?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's different ways you could look at it, but it's definitely helped me out. Yeah, it's helped
Nice.
a lot.
Okay. Good. Because I'm always curious about that, like, right? Because it's kind of two different mindsets. You're working on two totally different things,
Right.
right? Your effort and your concentration when training is totally different than a Wednesday, third down
Exactly.
period.
Yeah.
Right? It's totally different mindset.
Right.
So that's always cool to kind of, because like I talked to Danny O'Brien last week. He was on the podcast. When he's not playing in the CFL, he trains, right? DOB Elite. He trains in the North Carolina area. So it's always interesting to me, at least. It's okay. Well, how does your mind shift?
Right. Exactly.
So that's really cool that it helps you on.
Right. Well, I'm going through it now because, just hopping off of the season and not really training as much and just, focusing on the scheme and defensive looks and all of these things, and then having to come back and then try to reconstruct my mind on, oh, this is off season now. Like, I'm not necessarily game planning. I'm game planning for my clients, but I'm not game planning for a game. So, yeah.
Right. For sure. All right. Last question I have is, do you have time at all to watch football while you're training and coaching? Do you want to go home on Saturday afternoons or Saturday night and go watch college football?
Yeah, I do. The biggest thing people always ask me that question, but I like to go back and watch cut-ups. So I hate watching broadcasted football nowadays.
Yes.
I like to watch offensive cut-ups. I go and I have the NFL, whatever to go or whatever. I watch the highlights or the film version of NFL games now. So it's kind of, if you want to sit down and have a little function or whatever, it's a Super Bowl or something cool, that's fine.
Sure, barbecue, yeah.
Yeah, like that's fine, but I don't enjoy it as much. I enjoy actually getting down to the nitty gritty, seeing, oh, he flipped his protection, or oh, he checked this, or what concept did they run on 3rd down and 4 against man coverage? Like, that's how I want to look at football now. And I don't really get too much enjoyment unless, you got your big games that you don't want to miss live. Like, of course, like LSU, Alabama, crazy game.
No doubt.
You want to watch that.
No doubt.
But everything else, I'd rather just, I might play it with no sound or something just to kind of get a film look or a film feel. But I just have shifted my mind a little bit to kind of looking at stuff differently. Like, a lot of people don't like watching football with me because, like, I'm always thinking, oh, they just ran this concept or they're about to run this. And it's not fun for anybody. They're like, shut up. So
you look at it totally differently.
Yeah.
Right. You look at it totally differently. I'm similar, man. Like I GA'd at Delaware. Dude, the last thing I want to do now on Saturday nights is go home and watch football. When you do that thing for a year, when that's your job for a year or more, dude, I don't want to look at a football. Like, it's crazy. So, but I agree, like, yeah, hang out and barbecues and stuff like that for sure. That's all cool. But yeah, I'm similar. Like, I watch a big game, LSU, Alabama. I was driving that night, unfortunately, didn't see it. But for sure, big games like that are always fun to watch. So, Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, who's the other dude? Who's the Oklahoma guy?
Fromm and Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, Jake Fromm, Tua. Who you got? Who's gonna be the dude that pulls away and win the Heisman this year?
I think Joe Burrow. I really agree with that. And people are going to be like, what? But I literally watched LSU throw it was one drive I really paid attention to. They threw the ball 8 times on one drive without running. That is, 1, you never see LSU do it. And 2, I never knew you could do that on Alabama's defense. But not only, it wasn't like RPOs. Like, he's going through actual reads and he's making things happen and doing all of those things. Like, he's still running a sort of pro style spread offense. It's not just your basic run and shoot where you're object reading and you're doing things like that. He's going through progression, but like, he has a 79% completion rating on the year. That is also unheard of. 7 games over 300 yards. I mean, nobody's producing like that in the SEC.
Dude, and I used to say LSU is where quarterbacks go to die. Like, that's where that's the place where quarterbacks would go, and like, dude, you never know what happened. They disappear off the face of the earth. Yeah. And now it's like a total change. And I agree. I think Burrow is the guy. I mean, and it's what's so cool about it is all those guys who just named have crazy stories.
Yeah.
Crazy stories. And but yeah, you just mentioned some of the most important things. I mean, 79% completion percentage in college football for one, but in the SEC.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's craziness.
Dude, that's legit. That's legit. Well, dude, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you jumping on tonight on Instagram Live for those that watched on the podcast. Great talking with you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. It's always good to talk to you.